So here we are in Adobe Illustrator. We're going to take a crack at our infographic, and I thought I'd do a darker themed infographic so it can have pops of color. I went ahead and just had a new layer and just kind of did a very subtle gradient of different kinds of dark grays to kind of set the mood and tone for our background. I also have some different jewel tones and different bright colors that would really pop out on a dark background kind of set, although those might change by the time we're done doing our infographics, but it's good to kind of get started with an idea of colors and some type, just using some typical Helvetica typeface because it's not only easy to use, but the numbers look good as well. And so kind of picking out your typeface for your infographics. So you can see I have just a standard Helvetica. Sometimes if you use one of my favorite typefaces, let's say Railway, sometimes they have issues with numbers. And when you're working with infographics, it's very number heavy, so you want to make sure you have a typeface that's going to look great with the numbers used. So if you do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, notice how the 3 and the 4 go past the baseline. It doesn't have kind of an even look like Helvetica would have. Let me go ahead and just adapt this. So you can kind of see the difference between how this stays on the baseline. And it looks a lot more clean when it comes to infographics. So that's kind of something to think about when you're looking at the typeface you're going to choose. For your infographics, the numbers are almost more important than the letters. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do some basic layout and blocking of our elements. We're going to go open up that Word document that has all of the kind of different facts we're going to work on with this project. You can download that so you can have all these random facts. We're just going to copy and paste that into Adobe Illustrator, and we're going to go ahead and slide that off to the side. We're going to go ahead and see how many we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different random facts. This will kind of be a random infographic kind of theme. It's not going to necessarily talk about one thing, but it's going to go over different few facts so that we can do different types of statistics. So we have 7 different items. So it looks like we have an 8th, but that's a large, it looks like it could be a more of a bar graph or a line graph. So we want to make sure we have a lot of room for that one. So let's have our title. So we're going to have our title. It's going to be the big page of random infographics. So that title is going to go here. We do it right here in the middle. That could look really nice. And this is what blocking and layout is all about, is figuring out what we think might look best, and that can change quite frequently as we figure this out. So that could be a good place for a title right here in the middle, and we can have the infographics spread around. So I'm assuming the other 7, just looking at the figures and kind of seeing, okay, by the age of 60, these are very simple statistics and facts and figures. So I'm thinking when we have 7 simple ones, we can kind of just have different varying boxes. You can always hold down Option and drag to go ahead and duplicate your box and make it easier. We have 7 different infographics to fit in. So this is great because we can see how much room we have for each infographic as we do them. We don't have to do the infographics and then all of a sudden we realize we didn't have enough room to fit in the 7th one, and then now it's a cram design. And we want to have room for our bottom one, which is going to be, let me go ahead and make these a small. And I'll go ahead and show you the final one. I've already kind of figured out the layout, but I'm just kind of showing you how I go through this process. We have this big line graph that we're going to have to do. So let's go ahead and hold down Option and make a bigger area for the line graph. We want to make sure we have enough room for that. And this may mean we need to make our title a bit smaller so we can have room for our infographics. This is why blocking ahead of time is so critical, because you can avoid having to go back and do a lot of modifications because you've already kind of set a plan in place for your design. So I know it's not perfect, but there's kind of 7 different facts. We have our 8th larger line graph, and we have a title. So we have all of our main elements blocked out. Let's get to the fun part. We're going to do these one at a time. We're going to start with the top and work our way down. So as you can see, I spent a few moments kind of fine-tuning our layout, just kind of find the right balance and making sure certain elements kind of fit nicely in different areas, and we had different variations of sizes. So let's get started with our first one. So our first one is by the age of 60, most people have lost 50% of their taste buds. Well, I didn't know that. That's kind of a neat fact. So let's start to break this down and figure out the best way to visually present this. So this is a very easy one. It's a nice 50-50 split. The first thing that comes to my mind is kind of a pie chart, or kind of something that's split in half. So I thought let's do kind of a pie chart, but instead of doing a full circle, let's kind of do a more streamlined, modern, skinny pie chart. And I'll go ahead and show you an example here. of kind of what I'm talking about. It's a little bit more modern. You don't have the whole center filled in, doesn't take up as much space. So how we're going to do this is we're going to draw a simple circle and we're just going to make it a stroke. So we're going to do a white stroke. Let's go ahead and make this about the size that we want to make it. So maybe about that size, maybe slightly bigger. And let's increase our stroke a little bit. We don't want to have it too thick. We don't want it to be too chunky. That could work with certain instances, but I think I want to incorporate a photo into this one. I want this to be very clean because it's a very simple fact. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce this, maybe find the right stroke. I want it to be that skinny modern look. So perhaps maybe 17 in this case. And this is an 8.5 by 11-inch document, just so you know the size of this total document, so you can get a sense of what 17 points means relative to the document. Okay, so that's a good size. So what we're going to do, we're going to make this a solid color. I think right now it grabbed that gradient. So I'm just clicking down here and making it a solid color. So now that we have it as a solid color, what I want to do is cut this in half. So we can have the top side one color and the bottom side another. So the best way to do that is using the Shape Builder tool. We can also use the Pathfinder tool, but I'm going to use the Shape Builder tool in this instance. I'm going to go ahead and draw a box. This is how I'm going to help cut this in half. I'm going to make this a different color so we don't get lost with all our different shapes. That's kind of where I want it to be cut. And bring it down a little bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and switch it back to a fill so I can go ahead and cut it out. I'm going to highlight both of these and grab the Shape Builder tool. And the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I outline my path. So you notice I still am able to edit the stroke in this, and I need to go ahead and outline the path. So I'm going to go to Object, Path, Outline the stroke, and so it's going to go ahead and outline it. I can no longer edit it, but that's okay because we're ready to go ahead and cut it out. So I'll select both objects, going to go over here to my Shape Builder tool, and instead of adding, I'm going to subtract from this. I want to punch these two elements out. So I'm going to hold down the Option key, I'm going to punch out this outside, and I'm going to punch out this inside. So just holding down that Option key, or I believe it's the Command or Alt key on the Windows, and I'm going to go ahead and unselect. So I have my original circle, and then I have the shape that I cut out, and so now I have two different shapes that I can make two different colors. So let's go ahead and do that. I picked out two colors I thought would look really good on a black background, kind of some gradients. You can download that and find that where I have the color swatches. So I'm going to do the top. Let's do the top a purple. And with Adobe Illustrator, you can always grab your gradient tool and kind of find the right shading, kind of the right direction for that particular piece. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the green and get my gradient tool and try to find the right shading for that. You can approach it at any angle you'd like, whatever you think would look good. So now we have our little pie chart, but what I'd like to do is add some nice soft rounded edges, kind of give it a little bit more modern, sleek appearance. So we're going to do that next.